Today, better decisions begin with a regulated nervous system. Welcome to Sacred Grit, a podcast equipping men to conquer addiction and overcome inner struggles through physical, mental, and spiritual disciplines so you can become a man of honor and integrity. I'm Jason.Lyle. Now let's get to work. Today you'll learn addiction urges are often your nervous system trying to regulate discomfort. Regulation creates space between urge and action. And a regulated nervous system helps you make disciplined decisions. This episode is brought to you by Chuck Swinson. What's up, my dude? Welcome back to the Sacred Grit Podcast and Gritty Wednesday. Here we go. Better decisions start with a regulated nervous system. All right. So by now, you're probably getting sick of hearing about this nervous system stuff, but you keep coming back, so evidently there's something in there that you need to learn. And I believe that it is the answer to just about everything that we can think of that bothers us. Whether it is addiction, depression, anxiety, marital issues, it doesn't matter. Your weight, your health, it doesn't matter. I believe they're all tied to a regulated nervous system or a dysregulated nervous system. Because here's the thing. When we have urges, addiction urges specifically, they are our nervous system trying to regulate discomfort. And we have learned how to regulate our nervous system by doing these actions. Now, here's the thing. I have people ask me all the time, how do I know if my nervous system is dysregulated? And here is the test that you can pretty much bet on. If you have an action that is the opposite of the person that you want to be. So let's think of it this way. If you think in your brain, which is where you think mostly from a prefrontal cortex standpoint, if you're thinking from your logical brain, I want to be a man of integrity, I want to be a man of honesty, I want to be a man of truth, I want to be a man I can be proud of, I'll have all these different descriptors that I have of myself, but yet my actions are not indicative of who I say that I want to be in my mind, then something is happening between my brain and my body. Jesus said it this way, you will know them by their fruit. Okay. So you will also know who you are by your actions, who you really believe, what you really believe about yourself and what you really believe about the world. It'll pop out in your actions every time. That's what happened to me. I had this man that I wanted to be, but I just could not be that man. Something else kept happening. Now, that doesn't mean that wasn't my choice. 100%. Every affair I had, every wrong text I sent, everything I did, those were all my choices, my dude. I'm not sitting here going, it was my nervous system. I'm a victim of my nervous system. Not at all. Brother, this is your choice. I tell my guys who are addicted to heroin and methamphetamine the exact same thing. Addiction is a choice. And just because you don't feel like you can make a choice doesn't mean it's not a choice. It just means you've not learned how to make the choice just yet. Okay. Because that addiction coming up is trying to regulate the nervous system, and you've trained it that way. And this is also why when you try to white knuckle your way out, I'm going to talk about this in the upcoming episodes, when you try to white knuckle your way out, it actually makes the addiction stronger, but we'll get to that later. But regulation, when I learn how to regulate myself, it creates space between urge and action. If you remember on Sunday, we talked about yoga at the asanas, and we talked about how that helps us start learning how to regulate our nervous system. So hopefully you started doing something like that. Yoga, there's other things that work. I mean, if you're a rock climber, rock climbing does the same thing. You're learning how to sit with discomfort until you can make the next right decision. Okay. A little bit more aggressive, and that's okay though. But yoga works great. Other things like that works great. But if you're starting to find that space between urge and action, this is where your decisions come into play. And this is where I want to give you your little tidbit of Gritty Wednesday today, because a regulated nervous system helps you make disciplined decisions. All right, here's the deal. You need to kind of write down who you want to be. So if you say, I really want to be a man of honesty, and you're bad about telling lies. So do this. You're telling lies to regulate your nervous system, if you believe it or not, because you're lying to people to make you feel better about yourself, because you're trying to get them to feel better about who you are. If they feel better about who you are, you feel better about who you are, yet you walk away from that feeling terrible about who you are because that's not who you are that you told them. So if let's just say that's one. So maybe you just put a little note in your phone and it says, I want to be a man of honesty. And then you start walking throughout your day. And as you're doing these regulating practices, you start, realizing that between the moment of feeling and action, you actually start to create just this tiny bit of pause. That is opportunity. So maybe you're having a conversation with somebody and you're about to, you just pull out your phone, you look at that line, it says, I want to be a man of honesty. You're reminding your prefrontal cortex is reminding your body who you want to be. Now, you've already started doing the work of grabbing those thoughts because you're creating the ability to sit with this tension because you're creating regulated spaces. Now your mind is telling your body, I want to be a man of honesty. And what you'll start to realize is you will see that when those opportunities come to lie, you'll actually be able to go, oh no, wait a minute. I'm not going to do that. And there were even times I was terrible about lying for the longest time. And there were times in the beginning, I would even tell people, you know what? I just told you a lie. Let me back up and change that. I want to fix that. Because I want to be a man of honesty and a man of integrity. So you're reminding yourself, or maybe you want to be a man who's not addicted to pornography. You might put that in your phone. You might feel an urge coming. Sometimes you might start your day out and you're like, oh no, this doesn't feel good. You pull that phone out. Look on there. It says, I do not want to be a man who uses pornography. I want to be a man who, has a regulated sex life. You read that. When those moments come, you feel them come, you take out that phone and you read it. This is who I want to be. Your brain and your body are starting to talk to one another because a regulated nervous system helps you make disciplined decisions. Now, we can have these practices that I'm giving you, but if we don't put them into application, they just stay theoretical knowledge and not real life application. So that's kind of what I started trying to move you toward. On Sunday, I'm giving you Sacred Sunday as kind of these practices or thoughts about the practices. But on Wednesday, I'm trying to give you these real tools, real-time tools to stop and use them. Because if you'll use the tools, that's when the rubber meets the road, as to say. And you'll be able to stop yourself. You'll be able to breathe, pause, choose, and live, as I like to say. All right, my dude. So today you learned addiction urges are often your nervous system trying to regulate discomfort. Regulation creates space between urge and action, and a regulated nervous system helps you make disciplined decisions. My dude, thank you so much for listening. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you listening in. You could drop down into the show notes, click my Calendly link, go to the website, book a consultation call, see all the things that are coming up. I would love to have you, love to talk to you, and love to help you out. All right. This episode is brought to you by Oak Haven Diagnostics. They do pregnancy testing for cattle. You can go to oakhavendiagnostics.com. You can order your kit that'll give you all you need to draw blood from your cattle. Send that back to Jody and Jenny Morgan at Oak Haven Diagnostics, and they will help you manage your herd accurately and intelligently for the most productive calving season you have ever had. All right, my dude. I hope you have a great week. I will see you on Sacred Sunday.